Hi everyone, Nigel Saunders here. I was walking around watering my trees this morning and I noticed there's a lot of trees that kind of need some minor pruning. I'm going to start with my Bald Cypress today. I'll talk about the trees, the future styling of them, and do some pruning to those trees. Here is a look at my Bald Cypress. I gave it quite a severe root pruning in spring. Right down to the point where I thought, oh, I hope this tree survives, and it did. And it's growing really, really strongly now. The Bald Cypress needs a lot of water, and I keep a tray of water underneath the tree. And I was away in Toronto the one day, and the tree dried out, and the foliage at the top here turned brown. But it's regrowing once again, so the tree, it's healthy up top. I didn't lose the apex of the tree. It's just a bit of a setback. Here is a look at the tray of water I have under the tree. It's probably a little small. I could use a bigger container to keep the tree hydrated on those hot days. An old Bald Cypress tree in nature has a very distinct style to the tree. They grow tall and mature, and they kind of get a flat top to the canopy, and the roots kind of create this buttressed root base. It's very distinct. I'll show you some photos of some old Bald Cypress trees. I'm going to try and replicate that style with my Bald Cypress, but I don't want to grow it into a giant tree. I want to keep it small if possible and try and get all those features that a mature Bald Cypress has. So it's going to take a lot of root work to get that buttressed root base. It's going to take a lot of pruning to keep the tree small and miniature looking. You can see that the tree has divided. I had one leader here which is growing not very much, and then new branches have grown up and taken over. So I have like multiple branches reaching upwards. I want to reduce it to just one leader today, and it might be that weak one up the middle. I want to grow the trunk line straight and vertical with a lot of taper. And to get taper, you have to, cut the tree back, let it grow, cut it back again, let it grow. So you'll eventually get taper in the main trunk. I'm going to start today by reducing these long shoots back. And if I did pick that main branch coming up the middle, I would definitely have some taper, which would be a good thing. So I would have to remove these two tall dominant leaders here and reduce it just down to almost a stump. I think that's a good plan to keep this tree small and miniature looking. So, all right, here I go. I'm going to come in with my branch pruners and I'll just roughly cut them off and then I'll clean them up later. So here goes big cut number 1. That's gone. And here comes big cut number 2. So I'll just roughly prune it off to here. Getting in a little deeper there. Like that. That reduces the height of the tree quite dramatically. You can see how long these leaders were. Now those leaders will root as cuttings. I don't know if they will root this time of year, but definitely in spring I have rooted cuttings off of this tree before. I'm going to come in and clean those cuts up now, so I will nibble it away, reducing it down to a flush cut.
Maybe a little deeper. I think that's pretty good for this one. Now I'll come around here and do this side. Like that. So it's a little stumpy looking, but this leader will grow and it'll eventually blend in. Now there is a dead top to the leader here. I'll take that out. So I'll come in here with the scissors and prune it back like that. So one of these will become the vertical leader of the tree. I'll leave both on for now to aid the healing down below. And then some of these long side branches, I'll just reduce them back. I'll keep them on for now. So this one, I'm looking for good, healthy fronds. There's one that faces outwards here. I'll prune just ahead of that. The one at the back, I'll just go to here. And then I have one more coming out here. And I'll reduce that back also to here. And I'll leave these 2 leaders to grow wild and free and help blend that, that thick trunk into the new leader.
Quite a severe reduction of my bald cypress today. But as I said, I want to keep it small and miniature and try and get all those characteristics of a full-size mature bald cypress. I will put some rubber cement as cut paste on the wounds, just to seal them up to help stop loss of water on the tree. And I'll do this side also. I previously took off a large branch here and it's healing over quite nicely. And I sealed that with the rubber cement too. The only disadvantage of rubber cement is it's a little stringy. But if you get rid of your little strings, it works quite well. I'll put the bald cypress back on the bench and get out tree number 2. The next tree I'm going to prune is my Kapok tree. This is the last surviving Kapok I have, and this is a cutting that I gave to Bonsai J, and then he brought it back to me because all my other ones died. And I learned it was from the cold, that they can't go below 15 degrees Celsius or they die. So I've been keeping this one warm, kind of taking good care of it. And it's been growing really well. I'll show you how high it is. So here is a look at the tree. So we will go up and up and up and up and up. And it goes right to the roof of the greenhouse here. So normally I keep it on the floor so it's not touching the top of the greenhouse, but it's very, very tall. So I'm going to prune it back to a stump today and just see what happens. I'm doing this operation now because I've let the tree grow for the, all of the summer so far to gain vigor. And then I'm doing the big chop, and I still have some good warm weather left in the summer for the tree to recover and sprout new branches. I pruned these Kapoks back hard in the past, and they've recovered quite nicely. You can see the leaf scars on the trunk where branches will form. And I've got to decide a height to prune this to. I'm thinking somewhere about here is quite good. It's enough of a trunk to get some branch structure going. So here I go. All right, big cut coming up. Just like that. Here's the tree that I'm left with. So I will also seal that up with rubber cement. Like that. Maybe a little more. That should stop it drying out. And I should get branches coming out all over this trunk. I have rooted cuttings of the Kapok in the past. They root quite easily. You just, cut it off, stick it in bonsai soil and keep it well watered, and it'll grow roots and start growing. I
I'm just going to keep my one Kapok tree. I don't have room for any more of them, so this will have to go on the compost heap, unfortunately.
The Kapok tree is one of the giants of the rainforest. They grow to be the tallest trees in the rainforest. So I'm hoping to create a miniature version of the Kapok tree with the buttressed roots and the branch structure. That's my goal. So, big cut today. I'll put it back on the bench. The next trees I'll be pruning up are my royal oaks. These were grown from seeds from that mighty royal oak tree that was planted back in the 1930s. I'm going to prune it up today because I don't expect it to grow again this season. I'm going to prune it up and it'll give those wounds a bit of time to heal before winter.
My goal is to grow these into magnificent looking oak trees. That's the goal. It's a long-term goal, that's for sure. So I have some suckers at the base of both trees, and the suckers do contribute to the thickness of the trunk and the taper, but my goal was to get a scar-free trunk on this tree, so I don't want these lower branches. I'm going to prune them away, and I'll rely on, getting a radial root base to get that trunk flare at the base of the tree, and the rest of the trunk will just mature into an oak tree with not a lot of taper, but some. I'll start by removing that growth from the base of the tree, just pruning it off. I kept this branch on to develop sort of a twin trunk, and it's grown but not real strong. It hasn't grown up into here. All the vigor has been going into the main trunk, growing it quite tall. So I'll be reducing this main trunk back to some flowing branches to develop a canopy. Alright, I need to pick a point to prune this top growth. So I've got a branch off to the one side here. I've got multiple branches coming off this strong leader, so I can prune this leader back to some of those branches in here, and I just have to see where. I think to about to here. So here I go, big cut coming up. There goes the top of the tree. So you can see it was just straight. It looks really healthy and the leaf size is quite nice. I don't want these upper branches to grow horizontally. I want it to reach upwards. So I'm going to prune them to upward facing branches. So on this trunk line here, I will prune it. I'll prune the tip off to an upward facing bud. And I'll also prune this branch back to here. I have another shoot that's kind of up right here that could, fill in this area of the canopy. The rest of the branches are reaching upwards. There's one in here I could prune to an upward facing bud, a smaller one, and I will, like that. I will remove this tip growth. You can see it's setting up for vigorous growth for the next season, so I'll prune this branch back to an upward facing bud. And I may even prune this one back smaller. There's an upward facing bud in here, right here, so I can prune the tip off. Like that. Getting it a little more compact to develop that upright structure. So I think that's all the pruning on the largest tree here. Let's start on the smaller one now, and it has a lot of vigorous growth at the base. This tree is set up to grow in a clump style, but that's not the style I want for the tree, so they're going to come off. And these suckers have come up from the roots. So I'm reaching down as far as I can, down to the soil level, and putting them away. Now you can see here I have a very vigorous, almost like a twin trunk here, but again I don't want that, so it's going to get pruned away. Like that. So down to a single trunk. So the lower branches on this tree are reaching up really, really nicely. I just need to prune the top off to get it a little shorter. So where to prune to, I think there's all kinds of really nice branches on this tree. So I think I'll take that main trunk back right to here. Here I go. Just like that. And then I'm going to again do some tip removal on these longer branches. So I'll prune this one back to here. There's one over here. I can prune the tip buds off. Let me show you a close-up of the tip buds. Here's an example of the strong buds at the tip of the branch. And these are the ones that would grow next year, and maybe some of these buds back further in the branch would just go dormant and die off. So I want to prune out that tip bud like that, and then that'll activate these buds further back to grow into branches. I'll just finish up removing that apical bud off the other branches, encouraging sub-branching for spring. So heavy pruning on the royal oaks today, taking lots and lots off, but it set the trees up, to grow into tall, majestic oaks for the far, far future. The next tree I'll be working on today is my silk tree. It's a temperate tree, and you can see I've been leaving it grow this summer, and it's really, really tall and skinny. So today I'm going to do the big chop, cutting it down in height to a stump, and then regrowing it. So I think this will be another one cut pruning, but a big one. Here is a look at the trunk of the tree. So it's pretty straight, and I did prune it here once, I think maybe 2 years ago, and it grew a new leader, and that's pretty straight too. So I think I'm going to chop it down quite far. I've got some buds popping out here already on the tree, some up here, so I think I'll just take it off, creating a stick once again, and hopefully I'll get some branches forming. So here I go. I think I'll chop it right here. Here I go, big cut coming up. Just like that. So here is a look at the tree now. It's just a stump. I did get some more rubber cement, so I can put a dab on the top and seal that cut up. Alright, so I've got to puncture the top here, like that, and then I'll get a dab on my finger and seal the top of the tree. There's a close-up look at the trunk. You can see there's a lot of shoots already developing on it, so I think I will get quite a few branches coming off of this single trunk. I'm giving the tree a good watering, and then back on the bench it can go. So I'm just letting that soak in. Give it another water. And that should be good. Next up, I'm heading outside the greenhouse here. This is where the outdoor filming studio used to be. I used to make my videos here with the black background. I took that away because I wanted to set up that scaffolding in the plant room as a permanent set of shelves. I'll show you those. Here is the plant room, the winter quarters for my trees. So I have the one scaffolding against the side wall and one against the back wall here. Yesterday I spent the whole day taking apart skids to get enough wood to do my decking on this set of scaffolding, and I'm not quite finished. I have a little ways to go. So I've got to finish that tomorrow, taking apart more skids to get enough wood to finish this. Then I'll put some lights above it, another shelf on top, and then lights in the ceiling to shine on those trees. So I'm going vertical in the plant room, which will hopefully give me enough space to fit all my trees inside here. You can see all my stands. I took them out of the truck. They're in the plant room here. All my stands to display trees in shows. Quite a few of them, and they take up a lot of space. I've got one here. I've got a couple on the floor down here. Yeah, they take up a lot of space. It's something to think about if you're showing trees, is that you need some room for the trees and the stands. So I need to replace that table, the studio area, with a new bonsai bench. And I thought those plastic folding tables would be good. So I started looking around to see if I could find a used one. And I looked for several weeks and I just couldn't find one in this area. There's lots if I wanted to travel like 100 kilometers away to pick them up, but that kind of defeats the purpose of, reusing them. So I went out and I bought a brand new one. It's a heavy duty table, plastic folding table. So let's get it set up. I already have some concrete patio stones down here. I may have to rearrange them so the table sits on top of it. If you don't put these patio stones down, the table just slowly sinks into the ground. Because, when you get your bonsai trees on top of the table, it's a lot of weight. And this soil is very soft and organic, and things just sink into the ground. Okay. Here is my table. Heavy duty folding table. It's 6 feet, 1.8 meters long. I guess you just, there, it clicks into place. Like that. Then I'll flip it over and do the other side. Make sure those legs are locked. Like that. And like that. There. Okay, so that's my table. I guess it still folds this way, but just not in. So that's a good size. The heavy-duty table here says it supports 1,200 pounds evenly distributed. And I think the lighter-duty tables, which were $30 cheaper, supported 700 pounds, so just a little more than half. And I thought, if you're putting your trees on it, you've got to trust the table. You don't want it to collapse or anything. So I got the heavy-duty one, spent the extra $30. Another advantage of using this folding table is that these are the same tables they use at bonsai shows. They're always set up on these plastic folding tables. So it gives you an idea of how much space you have width-wise. So when you're laying out your display, your accent plants, and your tree, you kind of know what space it's filling up. So next I've got to get some plastic down on top to stop the sun hitting this plastic and causing it to deteriorate. So I might just use this, the leftover bubble wrap from the plant room. It doesn't quite fit. I found a piece of this leftover insulation from the plant room, that mylar foil. So I've got some rocks in all four corners of the table, so now I'll cut it out to the shape of the table so it looks a little neater. So here I go. It's blue scissors time. And I'll leave a little bit of overhang. Right now the table is in kind of dappled sunlight. That's because it's in the shade of this giant white pine here in the neighbor's yard. And the sun is just starting to clear the branches here. So this table will be in full sun for the entire afternoon. So it should get pretty good light here. I've got my forests on the bench now. Now the reason I don't use wooden benches, most of my benches are metal, In fact, I think all of them are, except maybe this one, is because wood rots out. Even these wooden tops, the 2x4 tops on these steel benches, I have to replace them like every 10 years, which seems like a long time, but I've been doing bonsai for 30 years now, and I've replaced these tops 3 times now, and it's kind of a pain in the neck, and it uses a lot of lumber up. So I like having the steel frames in all the benches. They last forever. Before I get back to the trees, I'll show you an update on my water jasmine down here. So it's pretty amazing. After all that root pruning and work, the leaves didn't even go limp on it, and it's growing again. So just amazing, you know, all that root work I did, and the tree didn't skip a beat. So yeah, I think it's not out of the danger zone yet, but it's certainly doing well so far. I'm very pleased that it hasn't all gone limp or anything like that. And I find that's the same with ficus. You repot them midsummer, you don't touch the top much, you do all that root pruning, and they just keep on growing like nothing ever happened to the roots. Because I think the roots recover very quickly on this species. You know, within a day or two, the roots start growing again, the fine root hairs that take up the moisture. And yeah, so I think it's doing well. Speaking of ficus repotting, here's my small Ficus religiosa that I repotted, root pruned. And you can see it has 2 new shoots on top, and the branch is growing once again. So that also seems to have survived the root pruning without any problems. The next tree I'll be working on today is my Black Locust tree, and you can see the leaves have folded up in the mid-afternoon. The soil is still moist, but it's not wet, so it's just the way the tree protects itself from drying out. It folds the leaves up when the sun's too intense and it's too hot out, and then when it cools down at night they unfold again, and then they always fold up for the nighttime.
I'm going to prune my Black Locust today for 2 reasons. One, it's getting too tall, that leader. It's starting to just take off and use up a lot of bench space. The other reason is it's starting to use a lot of water. I have to water this 2, sometimes 3 times a day. Otherwise it dries out. So pruning it back will help with the watering, and it'll also keep the tree nice and compact. All right, here I go with the pruning. So this is the tall leader. You know, it's perfectly straight. So I need to prune it back to one of these leaves to get some movement and taper to the upper canopy. So I want to pick a leaf that's pointing towards the front of the tree. I think this is the front, yes. I don't really have much. I've got this one to the right-hand side, this to the left-hand side, this to the right-hand side. There's nothing really facing this direction. Oh, there is one way back here. There's a leaf scar I can see facing this direction. So I'll prune. There's a leaf coming out the back also, so I'll prune just above that one coming out the back, right here. So here I go. Just like that. That gets the top reduced. Now there is a stub here from the last time I pruned it that I'll clean up. Like that. And then I need to prune these long branches back. So the branch is straight. I have a leaf here. I've got one here, one on the bottom. So I think I'll take it back to here. Kind of leaving all these leaves in place. Taking the tip off the branch. I'll do the same for this branch. I'll leave, some leaves in place and prune right here. Oh, that was an insect there. A leaf hopper. Come here. I'll put it outside. Oh, it just flew away. Okay, so yeah, I'll prune it right here. Like that. And then I'll take off my stubs from the last time I pruned this tree. Pruning those back flush. And that's it. 3 cuts on this tree gets it down
to a more compact size. I'll take the yellow leaves off and I'll give it a good watering. So here I go with the water. So with this reduction, I should only have to water this tree once a day now. Here's a look at the Black Locust. So it's getting quite a thick trunk on it now. The bark is starting to form. It's got lots of movement and taper in it. You know, subtle movement and taper. Yeah, it's on its way to becoming a miniaturized tree. So I'll just seal those wounds up with some rubber cement again.
The next tree I'll be working on today is my Trident Maple. It's got some long extensions on it, a lot of branching that needs sorting out. I'll show you a close-up of it.
Here's a look at the upper structure of the tree. So it's getting lots of good branching, but it's also getting a lot of branches that are crossing, and branches that are too vigorous need to be cut back. So here I go. I'll start by pruning back that really tall leader here. It's growing straight up from this branch, so I'm going to take it right off. So I'll come in right at the base here and prune it off flush. Here I go. Like that. So that knocks the height of that one down. I have the same thing here. This branch is growing towards the inside of the tree, so I'll prune that one off. Another long one. I have another long one here. Now this one, you can see this branch was coming up, and then I've got some leaves or some branches that fan out, and then this part of it sticks up straight. So I need to remove that straight part. So here's a close-up of that area. So I'll take the straight part that's sticking straight up off, like that, keeping my branches that are fanning outwards. I've got a stub on the middle here I need to prune out, like that. This branch I can reduce back to here. This one I can reduce back to here. This one to here. Pruning back to my first set of leaves. This one can come back to here. This one back to here, I think. And then I have one down lower I can prune back also. So this branch, again, I wanted it to grow upwards, and the shoot on the top hasn't survived, but the one fanning out has, so I'll prune it back short, hoping to get something growing more upwards there. There's a new branch underneath I'll prune away, and one here that I can also prune away. I've got some new growth underneath these upper branches. I can prune that away. I've got some growth at the base of this branch. I can prune that away also. Back one I can keep. The one on the trunk here I can get rid of. Now this is getting a little ugly here. I've got my main trunk line here and then a branch kind of growing beside it. I think in this case I want to take this part of the branch off, keeping this upright leader, but pruning this branch back. So here I go. Like that. That kind of cleans that area up. There's some stubs I can clean up here from the last time I pruned it. Like that. There's a stub here I can prune back. And I need to clean up this branch here. Take that off also. I think that's reasonable now. I think that'll do for today.
Trident maples are a fast growing species, so there'll be lots more pruning to go in the future to try and develop a natural maple tree style.
Next up, I want to show you an update to my Nightshade vine. It hasn't been growing really vigorous this year. You can see there's a branch that died off from the winter over on the right hand side. But it is in flower at the moment, and it has a berry on it here. And I thought I'd show it to you because the flowers, the purple flowers, kind of go nicely with the bluish green pot. There's a close-up look at the flowers. They're small, but they're quite beautiful. Here's a look at the little berry here. And these berries, they start off green, then they kind of go to yellow, and then eventually red. So people call them the stoplight vine. Here's one of the vines growing on the fence here with all the different color berries. So you can see here's an example of green, yellow, and red. So very colorful. I don't think this species is very suitable for bonsai, but a very attractive plant.
I don't know how long I'll be able to keep my Nightshade alive as a bonsai. I think it's 4 years old now. It'll be going into its 5th year next year, and I'll try repotting it in spring, give those roots more room to grow, and maybe it'll regain a ton of vigor. I don't know, we'll see. But so far, I'm enjoying growing it as a bonsai. The last tree that I'll be working on today is this elm. I just dug this elm up from the yard, so I'm not really sure what kind it is. I'm thinking it might be an American elm, but it's hard to say. I'd only be guessing. It's got quite a serrated leaf. I've pruned it several times, cutting it back hard to, the trunk as a stump and then the branches as a stump. So I'll just keep doing that, trying to build a canopy on top of this tree. I'm going to start by pruning these long shoots back. So again, I'm looking for leaf scars or dormant buds on the branch itself. I've got one here. I've got one up here. There's one on the inside here. There's a dormant one down here. So I think I'm going to have to prune it off right here, keeping it very short. So here I go, my first big cut. So you can see how long that shoot I cut off was. I'll do the same for this one. I do have a leaf here, so I can cut just above that. Taking that branch off. Then we'll zoom in and I'll finish it off. So here's the tree now. So I'll prune this one off just here, trying to get my growth more upright. This one right here. Kind of creating that, that canopy or the start of more branching. Now there is a dead stump here on the tree where I could clean that up a bit and it would help with the healing, so I will. I'll come in and nibble this dead part of the trunk away. So the live part of this trunk, you can see it kind of bulges. So I just need to take sort of the corner off this to kind of make it blend in more. So here I go. You can see that wood is dead. And this will just clean up the trunk lines so it heals a little more smoothly. I think that's good, actually. That should heal over quite nicely. Just take some of that bark off there. Yeah, that's a better transition now. So there's a look at my tree. It's quite an interesting tree with this scar up the trunk. Yeah, I think it has potential to develop into something quite nice for the future. It was nice to get some of that pruning done today. Some of them were big chops. Other ones were just kind of minor pruning. That is all for today. I'm Nigel Saunders. Thanks for joining me in the Bonsai Zone.